Welcome back to the 5-5 Sports Podcast. I'm Aviva Mirsky, here as always with Evan Rutenberg and Matthew Choi. We have a big show for you today as we break down the NFL wildcard round as well as preview next week's matchup. Let's start with the Colts versus the Bills. Last week, Evan, you had the Bills, but Matthew, you had the Colts winning. What was your reaction to this game?
Nothing surprising there. The Colts are never going to win. The Bills just had too much firepower, both on offense and defense, and they were both on display at various points. I think the Colts did well. The Colts kept it competitive till late. They had a chance at the end, potentially to win the game, but we saw Phillip Rivers run out of, I guess, gas. It was typical of 2-minute Phillip Rivers drive. The Bills move on. Nothing surprising there. Surprised to pick the upset there just because Buffalo is just so good right now, and Josh Allen's playing out of his mind. And we saw all the strengths from the Buffalo Bills on display.
Yeah, honestly, I agree with you. Even though I picked the Colts winning, it's not like I had, I expected it to be a close game, which it was. It's not like I was really underestimating, Josh Allen anyway. I know what Josh Allen is able to do. It really came, my decision, back from last week came down to, am I picking the Colts defense or am I picking Josh Allen to win this? I was thinking that the Colts defense would do just enough to, limit Josh Allen. But at the end of the day, it was Josh Allen who was able to do enough to overcome the Colts defense. And look, both teams played a great game. But honestly, all credit to Josh Allen because he is a young, talented QB, and I think he's going to go far in his career as a quarterback.
Okay. Let's move on to the Rams versus the Seahawks. You both had the Seahawks winning last week, so either of you can start. What happened?
Russell Wilson, the offense didn't show up, and honestly, it's been a recurring theme for the last 6 weeks. If we've been watching, or if anyone's been watching the Seahawks, we know they've struggled massively on offense. I just thought without Jared Goff it'd be a struggle, but it turns out Jared Goff did play after Walford went down in the first quarter. We all hope he's okay. It looked like a pretty scary injury, but from what I'm hearing, he seems to be fine. So that's the good news for the Rams and for him. But the Rams just kept getting injured throughout the game. They kept losing one guy, a piece here, a piece there, and just didn't seem to matter. Their defense was outstanding. Seattle's offense could not move the ball at all. Outside of the 150-yard pass to DK Metcalf, where it's just the brilliance of Russell Wilson scrambling and getting outside the pocket. But outside of that, the Rams played a perfect game on defense. Offensively, they did just enough. Cam Akers ran at will. It was a good win for the Rams. I thought the Rams weren't going to run out of gas, but I think these two teams were the worst two teams left outside of Chicago to play in the playoffs. So credit to the Rams. They got what they deserve, and they're gonna give Green Bay a fight next week in Green Bay.
Yeah, I think what stood out most from the Rams, definitely the defense. With the injuries, with Jared Goff not even being healthy and only being end up playing because his backup got injured first early in the game. I think at that point I think I expected it to be a win for the Seahawks, but I knew as well still was that the defense came through. And with the Seahawks, you say yourself, the Seahawks haven't been the same team as we saw from earlier in the season. We saw them as some unstoppable offensive force in the first few weeks, and they've really although they haven't been a bad offense in the later weeks, they really have slowed down in comparison. And I think the whole thing with letting Russ cook, letting Russ be unlimited, I think it didn't last for the entire season as much as Seahawks fans probably hoped. It's because when he went up against a good defense like Rams, I'm not putting this blame on Russell Wilson. It's just as a whole, the team's offense just simply couldn't do enough.
I have to say, Tyler Lockett, at first it was, a two-headed monster. You had Tyler Lockett, the consistent wide receiver. He's been all reliable for Russell Wilson and DK Metcalf early in the year. That's when they were really clicking. I forgot Tyler Lockett was playing. I did not notice him at all in that entire game. Tyler Lockett was just a ghost. And I think that compiled Seattle's woes. I don't know what happened. I don't know why Pete Carroll couldn't get him going. I don't know why they couldn't find opportunities for him. With that being said, the Rams' most important players on defense were the D-line. They were the MVPs of that game because the D-line was phenomenal, starting with Aaron Donald and going all the way down. They got so much pressure on Russell Wilson. He looked lost. He didn't know what he could do. he just had no time. Seattle didn't really have a run game to start anyways, but the Rams made sure that they had no run game Saturday afternoon. Phenomenal job.
Yeah.
And finally, Jalen Ramsey locked down DK Metcalf just like he has done all year. Jalen Ramsey, when he was young, like in his first, rookie and second season, he was phenomenal. Then he kind of had those shaky moments where he didn't look like the same player, but Josh Norman is back to his best. So credit to Josh Norman for getting back to his best, because when, he is playing like he is
You mean Jalen Ramsey?
he's a top 3 corner. Sorry.
You mean Jalen Ramsey?
So Jalen Ramsey, what did I say? Josh
Norman.
I said Josh Norman, yeah. Sorry, Jalen Ramsey, yeah. Phenomenal job. Yeah, Josh Norman's too busy being thrown around by the likes of Derrick Henry. He used to be a top corner when he had that rivalry with Odell Beckham. Those were another fun days in the NFL when it was the Carolina Giants when those two were on those respective teams. I mixed those two up there. Thank you for correcting me. Jalen Ramsey back to his very best. Phenomenal job. And, it'll be fun to watch him versus Devontae Adams because that's really best on best. If you're looking for a great matchup, we thought Jalen Ramsey versus DK Metcalf was going to be fun. Just get ready for Aaron Rodgers to be throwing to Devontae Adams because that's going to be a great matchup all next week.
Completely agree on that.
Sorry?
Okay.
Completely agree on that.
Yeah.
Next, we had the Buccaneers versus the Washington football team. You both had the Buccaneers, and that's what happened. What were your thoughts?
I mean, it was a little tougher than I expected. I didn't think it would be a close game, especially when Alex Smith went down. You don't expect, third stringers to come out in a playoff game, their first ever game, and expect to do as well as they did. So all the credit goes to Taylor Heineke. It's just you don't have to talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because you learn nothing about them. It was all about him. Did they win? No. Did it look like the refs maybe wanted Tampa Bay to get by because they didn't want Washington in there another week? Probably, but Washington has a bright future. I think that's what we learned from them. Will Taylor Heineke, pardon me, be the future of Washington? I don't know, but he probably deserves a shot, especially because my prediction is Alex Smith won't be coming back for another year. I just think he's had to deal with too much, and I don't think he's going to risk another year. But comeback player of the year, they're probably going to rename the trophy or the award to the Alex Smith Award, which is well deserved because what he had to overcome is something that we've really never seen in any NFL player or any professional athlete for them, or very few professional athletes, especially not in the NFL, have ever had to overcome. So credit to Alex Smith. It was unfortunate he didn't get the opportunity to play against Tom Brady, but the star was Taylor Heineke because throughout the game, he kept making plays and he kept watching in the game, which is something you just did not expect. I expected them to have a third stringer and score under 10 points. He put up 24. So all the credit is due to Taylor Heineke.
Yeah, the highlight of the game, even though Washington lost, is Washington was the highlight because of Taylor Heineke. And
he's made plays all night.
Yeah, and even though the Buccaneers won, at that point, no one was expecting the Buccaneers to lose. Like you said, the surprising part wasn't the win; it was the fact that it was actually even that close. And I mean, both of us, we haven't shied away from criticizing the Buccaneers all the season, and I don't. Like what you said, this game didn't tell us anything. It doesn't tell us how well they'll play for the rest of the playoffs. This was kind of the one game that the Buccaneers had a guarantee win for. And we kind of learned nothing else. I think what stood out more is the fact that Washington put up that fight. That Heineke played a great game for being considering that he is a third-string quarterback. And also, all credit to him. And like you said, all credit to Alex Smith for the main story and for being able to come back this season despite everything that happened to him in his career.
Okay. Moving on to the Sunday games, the Ravens took on the Titans. Evan, you had the Titans taking this game. Matthew, you had the Ravens. As a Raven fan, I will let you start. What stood out to you in this game?
I'll say, coming to the game, the main story was talking about Lamar Jackson and will he playoff game, and he played. I mean, he didn't have perfect game in terms of the passing wise, but the best game you want to see. But he did when he needed to make a big play, when he needed to make a big run, he came through, which is great to see. But also what stood out most was the defense of the Ravens because we limited Derrick Henry to like less than 4 yards. And I told you last week coming in like the two players that I wanted to avoid most in playoffs, even though they're probably inevitable. One of them was like Patrick Mahomes, and the other one was Derrick Henry. And I was really worried about what Derrick Henry can do to the defense because we saw like twice of Derrick Henry just like kind of doing whatever he wants to run over the defense. But our D came through, and everyone was honestly just playing like enough to like, go forward. Like I don't think this was like the most standout like highlight reel game we've seen from the Ravens, but it was probably the most productive from like every position. Everyone did just enough. Like early in the game, had me a little worried. We let a lot of open passes for Tannehill. We all gave him a lot of space. Lamar was looking a little shaky at first, but Lamar I saw something in Lamar where he didn't just seem nervous after he made a mistake. He seemed determined to correct him. He seemed determined to make up for it, and that's what he did. And our defense really came through at the end. I couldn't be happier about the Ravens win because it showed that even though it wasn't a perfect game, they fought and they played a lot hard, and that's what I've been waiting to see from them. And I think that's what we saw from them this past week.
And I made it clear I don't like Baltimore. I'm not a Baltimore fan, but I am happy from an entertainment standpoint that Baltimore is through because I think Baltimore is a much better team than Tennessee. I thought that game was going to be close, which it was. I thought maybe Tennessee would have the edge because of Derrick Henry. And once Derrick Henry was taken away, Tennessee really stood no chance. I was outside of the first quarter touchdown to A.J. Brown, which was a bit surprising because of how good Marlon Humphrey is. It just shows how good A.J. Brown is. I think he has a bright future. So just quick side note on A.J. Brown because he's a lot of fun to watch. But Baltimore won that game on defense. They didn't let Derrick Henry do anything, and after the first quarter, I did not have any sort of feeling that Tennessee was going to get back in the end zone. It was a well-executed game plan from John Harbaugh and the Ravens defense. I forget who the Ravens defensive coordinator. I know you'd have that off the top of your head.
Don Martindale.
Yeah, brilliant game plan from Don Martindale. Offensively, nothing really convinced me. For a large part of the game, the Titans knew you guys were going to run, and that's why they kind of limited you guys to 20 points. 2 touchdowns isn't anything to write home about, but it was enough to get the job done. I think it's going to be a much different test against Buffalo, but strictly looking at that game, it was a defensive battle, low-scoring game, and Baltimore won that game on defense. And Lamar Jackson had enough, with his legs, definitely with the second quarter touchdown, icing the game with his legs once again, late in the fourth. Credit to Lamar Jackson. I have to say he's a lot more fun to watch than Ryan Tannehill. He brings a lot more kind of excitement value, a lot more entertainment value to the next game. So it's gonna be a fun watch. But Baltimore definitely deserved to win that game based off 2 team performances and limiting Derrick Henry. No one's really able to do that. So limiting Derrick Henry to 2 yards a rush, that's where all the credit's due.
Completely agree in that because, I mean, like I said, like a lot of people kind of focuses on like Lamar's like first playoff win, but it was like I think Lamar said himself after the post game interview, like it really was. This game was never about him and him proving that he can like win playoff game. It was about the Ravens, and it was about them proving that even despite all the struggles they had this season, all the problems they had, they are still in this and they're still there to fight in the playoffs.
Okay. So, sorry. Okay, moving on, we had the Saints defeating the Chicago Bears. Evan, you predicted a blowout for the Saints. Matthew, you actually had the Bears winning. What was your reaction?
Okay, yeah, I was wrong about this one. I had a lot more faith in the Bears defense. But I mean, look, that being said, I don't think the Bears defense just played bad. I don't think they played bad. They've actually held on for most of the game. I just think that the offense literally cannot do anything, and then they just like made the defense more vulnerable because they're giving the ball back to the Saints. And yeah, I'll say this right now though, Evan, you were right. I know a lot of people probably thought this would be a closer game, and that wasn't the case because really, I mean, look, the offense wasn't. Trubisky did not play his worst game we've seen from him, I'd say. considering everything. But that being said, it's Mr. Trubisky, and like, he didn't have a good game. Like it's not a good game. Like you can't expect. He played as you expect Trubisky would in the playoff, and because of that, they are able to stop Dave Montgomery as well. They were able to stop all of like the receivers they have on Chicago on the Bears offense. And although that the defense held on for most of the game, it ended up not being enough really. And the Saints won. And look, the Saints are a better team overall. I was predicting this to be an upset. That's why I'm not surprised that the Bears lost, because I knew when I made the prediction, I think an upset can happen. I thought this would be a game that could happen for. But hey, Saints play better. They are a more talented team overall. So like honestly, credit to them. And I if you ask me which team I want to see go further in the playoffs, it is the Saints. So I'm not disappointed by this loss.
Yeah, I said it was going to be a blowout. Blowout is kind of a hard term. Just betting stats for any bettors that listen to the show. Teams that were double-digit underdogs had covered every single time. I think they were 8-0 or 9-0, including the Washington cover. So the fact that I think the final line was 10.5. The Saints won by 11. So I guess I could say I was right, because I think I brought up the betting last week, talking about how everyone is going to maybe have Chicago on the cover because you don't pick teams like that. You don't pick teams that are such huge underdogs to actually, cover that in the playoffs, because everyone that's in the playoffs deserves to be in the playoffs. But the fact is, Chicago's offense is that bad, and Mitch Trubisky sucks. I think Saints actually have a good offense. David Montgomery is a very good runner, and they have guys in Allen Robinson, who's a phenomenal receiver, and the number I think 11. I think number 11 Mooney, who I think has all the tangibles to be a great receiver. Problem is they probably have the worst starter in the league throwing to them. I think we talked all year about top defenses. We talked about the Steelers. We talked about the Ravens. We talked about a host of other teams. I think the Bears deserve a lot more credit. I think the Bears actually may be the best defense now that I think about it, just because they're on the field for so much, and they basically never have a lead to defend. The Bears we forget about them being maybe a top 1 or 2 defense, and I think they are the best defense. When you look top to bottom, there's just no flaws. The problem is they have the worst QB, not offense. They have the worst QB in the league throwing to them. I feel bad for Mitch Trubisky because they just got it completely wrong. It's not his fault that they took him number 2 over Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes. It gets funnier every day. But hey, he's the MVP. He's a Nickelodeon most valuable player. So kudos for him for being likable to the kids. But that's all you can really say about Mitch Trubisky. That's really all I can say about the Bears and Saints. Nothing surprising. I'm shocked to pick the Bears because they're.
Look, I predicted thinking that an upset can happen.
And just Trubisky's the worst. The Saints, top to bottom, have one of the deepest rosters in the league, and despite Drew Brees' limitations, with throwing deep and with his, with scrambling out of the pocket, which he is basically unable to do. The Saints still have a lot of weapons. Sean Payton's still a great head coach, and he finds ways to win games. They were never losing that game to the Bears. It just wasn't going to happen.
Look, considering what happened, yeah, that's fair. My prediction came from wanting to see a defense have a great game, but at the end of the day, look, that's why I'm not a betting man.
Okay. So finally, we have the Browns upsetting the Steelers. Different from what both of you predicted, what were your guys' reactions?
Here's what it came down to. I think all the credit, or not all the credit, a lot of the credit goes to Baker Mayfield because he proved a lot of people wrong, definitely. And I thought if the Browns were going to win, it was going to be a running game. It was going to be behind Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, but it wasn't. It was just a great coaching game plan. I think whoever came up with the game plan, I don't know who. I don't know if it was Kevin Stefanski. I don't know who it was. If it was Alex Van Pelt, no clue. But they did the right thing. They attacked the Pittsburgh, the middle of the field, the linebackers, which is the weakest point of their defense. And they kept going with these play actions, throwing, 12 yards over the middle. And it was just consistent, what's it called? It was consistent, misdirection from the Cleveland Browns. The Steelers just kept expecting them to run. Pittsburgh had a great D-line, but outside TJ Watt, you really didn't you didn't really realize that the other 3 D linemen were in the game just because they moved the ball very quickly. And they didn't give the Steelers defense any time to get to Baker Mayfield. Cleveland has a very good O-line, which is one of the reasons why Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt have the success that they do. Part of it is the O-line. But, Baker Mayfield moving the ball quickly, they were efficient. And despite the fact that, they, let Pittsburgh hang around with, maybe 6 or 7 drops that you usually don't see from, professional wide receivers and tight ends. The Cleveland Browns played a faultless game, and it's not easy to put 48 points on the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, a lot of the Steelers' problems were self-inflicted. Going 28-0 down in the first quarter, those are all self-inflicted. But from top to bottom, the Cleveland Browns played a great game.
Yeah, you're gonna hear me do something that I've never done before and never will do again, and that's going to be praise the Cleveland Browns for the way they played. And Baker Mayfield, like you said, he had a great game. I've never thought of him as a good quarterback, or I thought of him as a mediocre quarterback at best for what I've seen so far. But he is a huge reason why the Browns won. And in terms of Steelers, it just really is a different Steelers team than what we saw early in the season. We saw them go 11-0. We thought that they were or a lot I mean, I always having doubts in them, but a lot of people thought that they would be the favorites to win it. But they've really been
mediocre at best.
Yeah, their defense has been good, but their offense really couldn't produce anything. And I think because of that, their defense had no other choice but to constantly be on the field and get scored on by the Browns. No, people would say that they got scored on immediately, and the defense didn't play a great game this past week against the Browns. But I think what stood out more was how bad that offense was for them, and this is a very different Steelers type offense than what we're used to seeing from them. They used to be such a run heavy team back when they had Le'Veon, and back when they had a younger Ben Roethlisberger as the quarterback to make these deep throws. But now they're making these short passes, and something about it just I don't know. For me, I've never been sold on the Steelers offense because it never looked like anything special to me. And some people will know how they were kind of coming back in the second half. To be honest, I think if anything, that was literally just the Browns stepping off the gas from it because they had such a huge lead. And I think this was a telling sign of how kind of overrated the Steelers were. And yeah, I know we said the same thing about the Browns, but I think now I have to give credit to Browns for being able to exploit what was one of the best defenses in the league.
The game was lost when Mike Tomlin he opted to punt on 4th and 1. They're down 12. Yeah. They're down 28-0. They're at midfield. Go for it, because if you score a touchdown on that possession, then the Browns are sweating. Gave them the ball back, and then Nick Chubb iced the game with that screen. I don't know if it was a 40 or 30-yard run, whatever it was. That's when the game was over. You had to go for it. I think he was thinking, 2-possession game, pin them deep, get the ball back, then score a touchdown. But 4th and 1, wrong decision. And, in hindsight, it was definitely the wrong decision. But in the moment, we all thought it was the wrong decision. And it turns out we were all right on that one. If, you're on agreement with Mike Tomlin getting that call wrong. Big Ben quickly was – I don't think he was as bad as people said. I think 2 of the picks were tips. Some of them were overthrow. The one at the end of the game was just, it doesn't really matter. It's already the end of the game. They already lost the game, and he just threw it into the hands of Taki. But yeah, Browns deserve to win. Credit to them. They played a hell of a football game. Will they lose to Kansas City? Yes, but it doesn't matter because they're the ones playing Kansas City, and Pittsburgh isn't the ones playing Buffalo.
Okay, so now are your predictions for next week. You guys will have between 30 seconds and a minute to say who you think is going to win each round and why. Okay? Okay. 1 second. I need my timer. Okay. First, Rams versus Packers.
Packers, Green Bay's too good. They're too deep, and Aaron Rodgers is playing as well as we've ever seen. Their offense is too good. Him and Devontae Adams have a special relationship, and even if Devontae Adams is locked down locked down too, and it an extent by Jalen Ramsey. They still have other guys like Lazard, like Valdez-Scantling that can make plays. Green Bay's too good. I don't know how the I don't know how the Rams offense is going to fare against Green Bay's D, because Green Bay's D is also very good. To me, it's going to be Green Bay. Maybe a closer one than people expect, but Green Bay's going to win.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with that. I'm going to take the Packers because Aaron Rodgers is just that good. Like, he is like the MVP of the season, and he is. If the Rams are able to like stop Russell Wilson, I don't think they'll be able to do the same against Aaron Rodgers because there's just so many weapons that, like, even if like they're not the best receivers, Rodgers can make them into effective weapons because that's just how good of a quarterback he is. And like, that's not discredit to Russell Wilson, but I just think Rodgers is just that much better, and he will be the sole reason why the Packers are able to overcome the Rams defense. And like I said, the Packers, they have defense that can stop the Rams offense, especially with the way they've been struggling. And because I think the Packers will take it.
Okay. Ravens versus Bills.
I have the Bills. I think I think the Ravens got away with the Titans being a very mediocre defense. Bills aren't a mediocre defense. The Bills are, I think, the second best team on form in the entire league. Josh Allen, he's been moving the ball so well. His accuracy and the way that he and Diggs have kind of formed a relationship this year, it's outstanding. I think it's going to be a lot harder for I think it's going to be a lot harder for the Ravens to move the ball. I think Lamar Jackson will have some success, but I don't think he'll have enough success where they'll be able to beat the Bills on both sides of the ball. I think the Bills are just too good. They're playing too well, and I think it's a complete different test from the Titans.
I have to pick the Ravens because, if I don't believe in my team, what's the point? And I think our defense can do just enough to stop the Bills' offense. And I think that this is no discredit to Josh Allen or Stephon Diggs, but I do think that Marlon Humphrey will be able to do enough to limit the amount of targets that Diggs catches. And I think, and on the other side, I think Lamar, like last week, I think Lamar will do just enough. I think this will be the story of the Ravens defense, but I think on the offensive side, Lamar will do enough. I think Mark Andrews will do enough as a receiver to when Lamar needs to throw. And I think even Marquise Brown, who had a better game last week than most of the season, I think he will also be able to contribute enough, especially as well as Dobbins in the running game and Gus Edwards. There's a lot of players on Ravens who just can't do enough, and I think that's what happened.
Here, I'm going to say quickly, Marquise Brown's going to do nothing. Tennessee's entire secondary sucks, and that's why Marquise Brown looks like a semi-good receiver. He's going to be locked down the entire night. Sean McDermott and the Bills' defense is too smart. They're too good. Mark Andrews may have some success, but Marquise Brown's going to have none. That's my guarantee for you.
Okay, if that happens, we got it, guys. Sorry, that was not the main point of my argument.
Chiefs versus Browns.
Chiefs are too good. The Browns, credit to them for winning. But yeah, Patrick Mahomes, if he turns it on, the Cleveland Browns defense is nothing special, and Andy Reid off the bye. I'm not going to pick him to lose now if he's never lost before. Not against this Browns team, not against Baker Mayfield. I think they just have too much talent, and they didn't have to go up against Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill last week. So Cleveland Browns, I think, are going to be in for a rude awakening this Sunday.
Chief, next question.
Yeah.
Okay, last one. Saints versus Buccaneers.
It's easy to go off history because the Saints just look so good against the Buccaneers in the regular season twice, and I'll go with them again. Nothing that Tampa Bay did really convinced me against Washington, and I think that kind of plays into the Saints' hand because the Buccaneers' defense isn't their strong suit, and the Saints' defense is their strong suit. I think they'll be able to limit Tom Brady and the rest of the crew going into Sunday. I think it'll be a much closer game. It's going to come down to the final possession. It just comes down to who has the ball, who makes the final play, and it's a toss-up. But I'll go with the Saints just off history and just off who has the more potential to win this game.
I want to agree with you again, and I'm gonna go with the Saints because I think the Saints defense knows what they're getting from the Buccaneers. Like, they've been there before, and then they've been successful both times. I don't think there's much in the Buccaneers that can really surprise them, and they are a good enough defense to stop them from winning. And I mean, I've never been sold on the Buccaneers offense, and I'm not being sold on them now. And I think Saints have enough to take them down.
One final question. Fast forward to Super Bowl weekend. Who do you think is playing and who do you think will win?
To me, the Packers are just the shoe in the NFC because I don't think Tampa Bay or New Orleans has nearly enough talent to beat Green Bay. I think whoever plays them, it will be a close game because there is enough talent on both sides of the ball to give Green Bay a fight. I think Green Bay, the way they're playing, and the way Aaron Rodgers is playing, he looks a lot better than Tom Brady and Drew Brees. And he creates more ways to win, especially because he does use his legs to create plays and to win games. To me, it's in the AFC between Buffalo and Kansas City. A lot of people are going to have Buffalo, but I just think Kansas City has too much talent. I believe too much in Patrick Mahomes and his abilities, and he has more weapons than everyone else as well. So I have to go with Green Bay, Kansas City. I have to go with 2 number 1 seeds.
I mean, yeah, I have Packers as well because they just look great all season, and Aaron Rodgers has been been playing at the MVP level. Yeah, and also I'm gonna have to pick I want to pick the Ravens, but realistically, if I had to objectively pick who I think will be Super Bowl, I can't say. We've praised Patrick Mahomes enough times to know why I think it's gonna be Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the league, undisputed, and there's so much on the team that can that makes them a better team than the Ravens and the Bills. And I mean, I've seen the Chiefs kill the Ravens already this season. So there's no evidence for me to say that I think the Ravens will go Super Bowl, and that's why I have to pick the Chiefs.
Okay, and one word answers. Who do you think is gonna win?
You know what? I know you're gonna say the Chiefs. I'm gonna say the Packers.
I am going to say Chiefs because, Mahomes, that's correct. We have Tyreek Hill, a good backfield, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Aaron Rodgers, he has second ring. It's now or never for Aaron Rodgers. So I'm gonna believe in one of the most talented players of all time.
Okay, so we're gonna follow this for the next 3-4 weeks until the Super Bowl, and we will see who was right. Moving on to basketball, with all the rising cases of COVID-19 in the NBA, should we be concerned about the rest of the season?
No, the NBA will find a way to operate no matter what. I think the NBA has invested too much money, and the NBA is too much of a global fan base to cancel the season. So they had their problems early on. I think the entire world's having a lot more problems. But if the NBA is operating now, then I'm pretty sure there's no reason to have any doubt that they'll have to stop the season.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with that. We've seen the same thing happen with the NFL. They had a lot of problem cases. We haven't gone to that point yet. And hopefully, we won't. But with they're not going to. They postponed a few games. That's not enough for. I think the first game they postponed was the Celtics Miami game back on Sunday, and I think that was kind of a wake up call saying, okay, they need to kind of reevaluate how well they're handling this. But I think they'll figure it out because again, it's the NBA. They're going to cancel because again, there's so much money into it, and there's so much right on the NBA season to continue. So I don't think you should be concerned yet or anytime soon, to be honest. And I think it will eventually it will work like the NFL. The season will progress.
In terms of the Raptors, has your thoughts on this season changed in any way?
I mean, they're more competitive over the last, couple of games, losing in the final position to Portland, Golden State. In the day, there's still losses. The Raptors camp, the Raptors team, they're not going to feel any better about, losing by 15 or losing by 1. It just feels over. Even they're not playing great teams. Portland, Golden State, they're not, what they were 2 years ago. They've definitely had their issues and they definitely had their struggles. And the Raptors of old win those games. The Raptors of new clearly don't. It's not, there's really not much to say about the Raptors because not much has changed other than the fact that they become more competitive. I saw someone call Siakam a human Beyblade. That was one of the funnier things I've seen all year regarding Raptors Twitter. But Siakam was playing better to his credit, to Pascal Siakam's credit. But at the end of the day, it's just a few more losses on the board. That's the bottom line. That's all the Raptors are going to feel. So why should their fans feel any different?
Yeah, I mean, you said I was supposed to say despite Siakam constantly looking like a human Beyblade. Like he has been playing better in the past few games. Like he's been looking closer to himself, like how he was in the regular season last year. But that being said, if Siakam is your best player, like it's not a very comforting thought because he still has the same problems. Uh, and the rest of the Raptors team, they haven't looked outside Van Vliet, like the Lowry's again a year older. Not that he's been playing really bad. It's just like there's just this looks like a team that's kind of out of gas after going on like deep playoff runs all decade and after going on a championship run and having a great season last year. They look like out of it this season. They look like they've done as much as they can, and now, like I said last week, it's the time of them kind of seems like it's up.
Look, they're tied for last with the Pistons. The Washington Wizards have a better record than them, and they don't play any defense.
Yeah.
The only difference is they have Bradley Beal playing out of his mind. Yeah, whatever. Raptors, the Raptors. You'll never question their heart. So if you're watching, you know that they're going to put their best foot forward every night. So that's a good thing about the Raptors, but nothing about their record or nothing about their overall play is anything to write home about.
Okay, what stood out from the rest of the league?
Say Bradley Beal. I mean, he looks like the best player in the league, and despite Washington, sucking in every other aspect, Bradley Beal is putting on a show. He deserves, a trade to a competitive team because he doesn't deserve to, waste his prime with the Washington Wizards. No offense to, anyone in Washington or if you're a Wizards fan, but I'm sorry, you guys aren't very good. And that's the reality. But yeah, Bradley Beal, he's if you're just a fan of basketball, if you have an appreciation for the sport, for the art of the game, then just go watch Washington for Bradley Beal, not for the team itself, because nothing about the team is good, but everything about Bradley Beal is great right now. So that's one positive at least coming from DC. There's not much else positive in that state. So yeah, at least Bradley Beal's the one shining spot.
I only play LaMelo Ball because the youngest players to ever record triple double, and I'm like I haven't when he was coming to the league, I haven't been the biggest fan of LaMelo Ball, but I think he's proving that at least he is able to back up some of the hype that he had coming in. And will he be able to keep it up? I'm not going to say right now he will, but he has been impressive so far, and I think this game kind of proves it. And I think he has definitely having a much better start than his brother Lonzo.
Okay, so moving on to the NHL, which returns this week. What are you looking forward to for this season?
Honestly, not the Maple Leafs. They're still not going to play defense. Did they improve any aspect on defense? No. Sheldon Keefe still doesn't convince me as a good head coach or an elite head coach when you compare him to the other 30 teams. Yeah. It always feels like you're looking, as a Leafs fan to can the Leafs break through? Nothing that I've seen tells me yes. They're still going to have great nights on offense, but when their offense isn't there, it feels like they're not going to win close games. They're not going to win those, nitty gritty games. But the rest of the league excites me. I think there's a lot of stars. There's a lot of young talent coming into the league. I think one team that's going to absolutely break out, maybe not break out, but they're my kind of not underdog, but they're the team that no one's really calling championship contenders, and I will say I think they very well can win a championship. That's the Colorado Avalanche. I love everything about them, top to bottom. They're going to be phenomenal to watch this year. Yeah, it's going to be fun to see the stars in action. Who's going to break through? And I think it's going to be a fun NHL season because I think it's going to be I think there's going to be a lot more balance this year, considering the fact that we do have a slightly shorter schedule as well.
Yeah, I'm actually going to disagree with you because I do think that they're actually a lot to look forward to for the Leafs this season. I think they made requirements that on paper they're not the most standout acquisitions on paper, but they add a lot of grit to the team, a lot of veteran talent, which is I think the Leafs were in desperate need of last season. And in terms of Sheldon Keefe, a lot of people have criticism of him. I've always kind of been a bit more lenient, thinking he is the type of coach that is allowing that will allow the team to play as they're intended to. I think when Babcock was coach, he's been a lot more stubborn. He didn't use like Matthews and Martin to the full talent that they're capable of. And I just think even though Sean Keefe hasn't been like always as best like as a coach last season, I think give him a full season to run his team. I think there's a chance that he can surprise us as a head coach, and we can finally see this team play as Dubas intended when he required all these players. And in terms of their defense, yeah, they're not just going to be one of the best defenses in the league, but they have made some acquisitions to improve it on the more defensive front. They got rid of Tyson Berry, who's really always more of a offensive defense anyway. And
Yeah, but he did nothing last year. Yeah, Tyson. Yeah, good riddance, Tyson Bear. Sorry, I mean nothing against him personally, just everything against him.
He did a good season. Like
just everything against him on the ice, he sucked.
Yeah.
I mean, being in the new division and new format of stuff, they're going to help the Leafs because not having to deal with Boston, Tampa Bay is going to be a bonus for them. So they'll probably be one or two. Is it the northern? What is it? The Northern Conference, Northern Division? What are they calling it?
We're just calling it the Canadian Division, I think.
The Canadian Division. I don't know where they came up with it. Good for them. Yeah, the North. So they'll be in the North with all the other Canadian teams. So. Yeah.
North Division.
Yeah, so they're probably competing with the Calgary Flames and the Edmonton Oilers for the best team. Toronto and Edmonton have a lot of similarities. I think their fans can tell you.
Generational talents, weak defenses,
exactly, and sucking for years, and now finally having a little glimmer of hope. Can they break through? That's gonna be the big question for both teams. Just a little quick side note to the Edmonton Oilers. Shout out to everyone in Edmonton because. Yeah, not much to do in Edmonton. Cold. The weather sucks. They have hockey, and that's really all they have. So hopefully, I like the people of Edmonton. They're good people. So hopefully
for the team, which I respect.
Yeah, exactly. I have nothing against Edmonton Oilers. Them and the Calgary Flames are my two favorite Canadian teams. I hate the Canucks. I hate the Canadians. I hate the Senators, and the Jets. Just they mean nothing to me.
That's amazing. I actually agree with you on that.
Yeah, so there we go. We agree on something. That's a nice change of pace. We found. In 6 years of knowing each other, we finally found something we can agree on. So, good on the North Division for bringing us together on that one. But with that being said, yeah, it should be a fun NHL season, especially because a condensed season that helped the Leafs last time when it was a lockdown season, making the playoffs for the first time. Of course, we all remember how it ended in, absolute tears and embarrassment, just like every Leafs year. But, hey, it's a new year, 2021. Maybe it gets better for Leafs fans. Not for the rest of the world, but, Leaf fans, hold on to whatever hope you have. You guys are just like Cowboys fans. All hope and ends in disappointment. So maybe 1 year that will change. Maybe this is the year. I just don't see it.
As a Flyers fan, I'm really excited to see Wayne Simmons in the Leafs uniform.
Yeah. I don't know, third or fourth line, wherever he plays on. Hopefully he chips in with some goals. Hard play. You know what Wayne Simmons brings. He's not the most talented guy, but he will bring effort and energy no matter what. So, what you're getting out of Wayne Simmons is not going to be anything surprising. You just hope that, his production is better than whatever it was last year. That's really
you do all little things well.
Exactly. That's all you can ask for from Wayne Simmons. You chip in with a few, game-winning goals potentially. Just, all around, hopefully he has a good year because, Toronto-born, you never want, to root against the Toronto. You always want to see the Maple Leafs players overachieve. So that's what we're hoping for Wayne Simmons.
Yeah. Finally, we have a rapid-fire segment. 30 seconds each, and then I'm going.
That's not so rapid fire.
Finally, we have our not so rapid fire segment. 30 seconds each, and then I'm going to stop you. So I'll give you the thumbs up at 5 seconds, like 25.
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like it's.
At 26 years old, Baker Mayfield is the oldest quarterback remaining in the AFC. Excluding Patrick Mahomes, which remaining quarterback has the brightest future?
It's between Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. To me, Josh Allen, just his pure, arm ability to me sets him apart. And also, I think the AFC East is a lot easier than the AFC North. Baltimore is going to have to deal with Cleveland for the next few years, and they're going to have to deal with potentially a much better Cincinnati team. And whether Pittsburgh or not stays competitive, that's to be determined, but they still have a lot of great pieces on there. But to me, Josh Allen, he has the easiest division, and to me, he has the most talent, and that's why I have to go with Josh Allen having the best future.
No respect to Josh Allen because he is a great quarterback, but I'm going with Lamar Jackson. And I'm being biased, I say this, but I'm still going with Lamar because I just think his running ability is like enough to stand apart from literally like any other player in the league. And if he can improve as a more consistent thrower, which he has improved from what we've seen over the last few years, and if he can continue that growth as a passer, plus his running ability, I think he is probably one of the hardest QBs to stop.
Okay. Sorry. Do you have a problem with the Ravens stomping on the Titans logo?
No, it makes more entertaining, and the Titans did it to them in Week 11, so they had every right to do it. I know Ed Reed, said win with class, but it's a modern NFL. Social media, this and that. You can have all your arguments with that, but it brings more entertainment. It brings more kind of intrigue to the matchup, and the fact is, they're just retaliating to what they did. So, Baltimore, they won the game, and they had every right to do it.
Yeah, I mean, they did the same thing to us. There's no reason why it's wrong to do the same thing back. It's not like we did what Juju did in the beginning of the game where we're dancing on the logo. It's nothing like that. It's it's part of the game. They're taunting us before we taunt them back now that we have the upper hand, and that's what we expect in sports.
Okay. Should the Steelers ban Juju from TikTok?
I think so. Clearly, it's not helping them win. Juju is just he was so likable in his first 2 years, I can't stand him anymore. The problem is even talking about the Cleveland Browns being gray nameless faces being the same old Cleveland Browns. I mean, it's taken a bit out of context, but he still has to choose his words better. But when he says that, he's speaking on behalf of the other 52 guys. So the rest of the team has to back up what he's saying. And frankly, Juju isn't good enough to be saying that. And frankly, I think he's putting a target on the Steelers' back.
I mean,
and it's costing them.
It seems like each year Juju's making more of a clown himself, on social media and stuff like that, and the right things he says, and it seems to be a trend with Pittsburgh Steelers wide receivers. I mean, after Antonio Brown, and yeah, I think they should ban him because he's hurting the team if anything with all of the bad attention that he's giving them, and he's kind of stabbing his team in the back with the way he's been acting.
Okay, who should trade for Deshaun Watson?
There's a lot of teams. I think the team where he'd have the most success is the 49ers. If Jimmy Garoppolo isn't part of their future, if he goes back to New England, that's yet to be determined. But there's really a few teams on the list, but I'll say the 49ers simply because if they got Deshaun Watson in his prime, paired up with that defense, the other team would be the Chicago Bears. That'd be the really obvious choice, but I'd go with San Francisco just for the sake of not picking the Chicago Bears, and I think they would be instant contenders if they got Deshaun Watson, the 49ers.
No, I'm just saying this just because I heard the rumor recently, but I would say Miami Dolphins because even though they have Tua as a quarterback, I think if they want to have some bit more bona fide and go for a run faster, I think Deshaun Watson would be the perfect quarterback for them because they have a lot of other pieces set already, and they just kind of need someone with already a bit of that experience to kind of take them farther. And I do think Tua can have a bright future in the NFL. I think he's still a few years away from being that quarterback for them. I think Deshaun Watson can be that much faster.
Okay. Is Dan Quinn as a defensive coordinator a good signing for the Cowboys?
You look over the last 10 years, the defensive coordinator for the Cowboys it's not a pretty list. So I don't know how responsible he was for the Legion of Boom back in Seattle. I think that's what people on social media are saying. It's 50-50. I don't know how responsible he was for the defense in Atlanta. They blew a lot of leads, but I think if he's just there to solely focus on defense, I think then the balance of him and McCarthy could be spot on. And I think he's definitely an upgrade over Mike Nolan. So as long as they don't, give up, a 50-yard deep pass every game, I think it's definitely an improvement.
I mean, he's definitely an improvement. Like that's not a question, but I mean, that's also not saying too much either. My concern with Dan Quinn is that they're kind of making a similar mistake they made with Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy was a Super Bowl winning coach, but really it's because he had Aaron Rodgers as a quarterback. And in turn, Dan Quinn is a good Super Bowl, but he had a really good defense. And we don't know how much he played a part in that either. So I'm kind of worried that they're making the same mistake as they did with Mike McCarthy. That being said, it is an improvement, and I'm not knocking down that it is a better sign for the Cowboys than it was before. Than it was last season.
After Devonta Smith's incredible performance in the championship game, what is the ceiling for the Heisman winner?
I mean, some teams are probably looking at that team and licking their lips. His speed is phenomenal. Obviously the talent is going to be a lot higher than NFL, and he's not going to have that same production and that kind of same level of execution that he will in college in Alabama. But the talent's definitely there, and I don't know who's going to take a chance on him, how early someone's going to take a chance on him. But the potential's there for one of the best receivers in the game. It's very rare you see a guy like that in college come out. So we don't know, but the potential's there.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it all really comes down to what team drafts him and what team provides him with like the system that allows him to use his talents to the best of his ability, that allows him to thrive. And yeah, it all comes down to that. But if he is in the right system, he is going to be a dangerous receiver.
Okay. After Philadelphia was reduced to 7 players this weekend, are you worried about the future of the NBA season?
We touched on this earlier. I think no. I mean, it definitely handicaps Philadelphia and definitely cost them a few games. I don't. It's not going to cost them the season, but it may cost some teams, potential playoff spots. If they're a team, on the bubble of being an 8, 9, 10 seed, then I think definitely it's going to impact some games because especially if you're a good team playing a bad team, maybe it gives them a free win, or if the other way around, it's a free loss and a free win for another, back and forth like that. But I think it's going to impact some teams, but it's not going to impact the NBA season.
Time.
Yeah, it's going to impact, like I said earlier, it's going to impact some teams. You're going to have to pivot every once in a while, but really it's not going to be a concern for the NBA season as a whole. It'll be concerned for, again, teams like week by week basis, but like in terms of the whole season, like it's not going to be that damaging.
Okay. How do you pronounce his name?
LaMelo
LaMelo.
Ball.
LaMelo?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is LaMelo Ball already better than his brother Lonzo?
I have to say yes, and that's why I put this question in here. I think the ceiling's definitely better. I've seen more from LaMelo in his short season than I have from Lonzo as from his overall game. I just think, especially the chemistry he's developed with Mikal Bridges. He's a better shooter. I think he's a better passer. Alonso's a great passer. I think LaMelo's just as good. And I think when we're talking about LaMelo in 2 years, when we look at where he is compared to where Lonzo is now, I think LaMelo's a better player, and I think he will have a better career.
Yeah, I'm also gonna pick LaMelo because I mean I've watched Lonzo quite a bit because I was like a fan. I've been like analyzing him in his early days, and he always kind of struggled with certain things that LaMelo just do better. And like LaMelo has a better shot than Lonzo did coming in, and I mean he has a better shot than him now, and he passes just as well. I think fair to say LaMelo is better than Lonzo.
Okay. DeMarcus Cousins was ejected twice in the last week for relatively soft fouls. Is the NBA too soft as a whole?
Well, they're definitely soft as a whole, but they're being so harsh on DeMarcus Cousins. He has a target on his back, and they're just looking for every excuse to make him an angrier person and to make him think that the NBA is against him. The NBA has to, chill with these soft calls. And we saw, even at the end of the Toronto Golden State game when they gave, I forget who the Golden State shooter was, but they called Fred VanVleet on a foul where he didn't touch him, and they ended up switching it to Kyle Lowry because they want to make themselves look right. The NBA is ridiculous. The NBA refs need to fix up, and it's been the same problem for the last 20, 30 years.
Yeah, I haven't seen this for a while. I think the NBA is way too soft, and like it's kind of embarrassing when you watch like old highlights like back in the 80s and 90s when you would see like Robert Parrish like attack Bill Embiid or between like the Boston Celtics and Detroit Pistons or the New York Knicks would like attack Jordan like in the 90s. Like you see how aggressive the game used to be. Even back in 2010, like the Lakers and Celtics between Kobe, Pierce, Ray Allen, like they would get into physical confrontations on court. You don't see any of that now, and I think it's a bad trend that the NBA is heading towards.
It's been getting progressively worse ever since
Yeah.
like the year 2000.
Yeah.
Okay. Final question. Shaq made fun of Rudy Gobert's contract. Was he right? And does
Gobert. Yeah.
Sorry. Shaq made fun. Okay, wait. Final question. Shaq made fun of Rudy. Final question. Shaq made fun of Rudy Gobert's contract. Was he right? And does Gobert deserve $200 million?
No, Shaq completely right. As good as Rudy Gobert is defensively, he offers nothing on offense, and the best offensive players aren't playing center. They're playing 3-4, and even the best centers like Anthony Davis, Jokic, and Joel Embiid. They can shoot the three. Rudy Gobert has no shooting ability. He's a very limited offensive player. And as good as he is on the defensive side of the floor, he's not taking the team's best player, and he's not offering much on offense.
Yeah, the type of money he's getting, you expect it to be like the best player in the league. Like he's the best defensive player in the league, but like you said, he doesn't offer anything much offensively. He's not Anthony Davis. He's not Nikola Jokic. He's just a very strong defense player. But that being said, he doesn't deserve 200 million. And Shaq likes making fun of everyone, but he's right about this one.
Okay. So I think that is about it for today. Thank you for listening to 5-5 Sports. As always, if you like what you are listening to, feel free to subscribe and join us next week. Bye, guys.
Thanks for listening.